Okay, this is going to be a rundown of the bikepacking setup that I'm going to be using for a 9-day ride at the start of February into France. I don't actually know the mileage, I'll put it on the screen, but you know, I've kind of got a system here that's capable of comfortably withstanding pretty much any amount of rain, more or less, and I think I'll be comfortable both during the day, several degrees minus, and at night probably comfortable down to about 0 degrees. So typically I don't run panniers in a rack anymore, I just use a giant tail pack and this bag instead of the 2 panniers, but because I needed to carry 2 sleeping bags in order to stay warm at night, that's why I've got the panniers and the rack temporarily back on the bike. The bike itself is an eBay special. I think I got it for about 40 quid, just the frame on its own. And obviously it was from a breaker, and it's what it is a Mats 60. So it's German designed, built in Thailand or somewhere like that. It's a pretty generic mountain bike frame. You don't need anything really fancy for bike packing. Hardtail's fairly important. You get a lot more capacity. You can't put racks on a full sus bike. So let's start at the back. This is a Toe Peak aluminium rack. I forget what it is. It might be called something like a Toe Peak DX. Again, I'll put the names up for all these things on the screen. Just fixes to 2 bolts here. These are very common on a lot of basic bicycle frames. Modern mountain bikes, the more kind of trail style ones, they don't bother with the racks because they're not designed for that kind of thing. Just another reason that for bike packing I would advise going with, you know, I mean, I would say an old frame is absolutely fine. There's also 2 more threaded bolts down here, threaded sort of holes in the back part of the frame, and they're M5 bolts. They're the same as the bolts for the bottle cages. The M5 bolt is pretty much everywhere on your bicycle. I've engineered it to have a mudguard on there. It's just the widest, longest Toe Peak mudguard they do, because a rack will do a fair bit of mud protection itself, but putting an actual mudguard in there, you can see it's bolted in there with the same bolts that hold this part of the mounting system onto the rack. Panniers, you want to get the kind of panniers that have a big button that you need to press to release them so they actually latch on. You can get some that just hook on. They're not going to stay on for off-roading. You want the type that go on with a clunk and they really lock into place. I also double up with these, which are called rock straps. They are a fairly, they're a big name in motorcycling, I know that much, but it's like, the thing about them is, I've got them everywhere, right? I've got a big set there, medium set there, and a small set there, and a small set holding the tent as well. So I've got 4 pairs of rock straps on this bike. So you've got a short elasticated section, and then you've got a long section which is obviously adjustable like this, clips together, and then you can put it down as tight as you need, and that's just going to hold that entire pannier on, because you've got to imagine there's a lot of weight in a 15-litre pannier. This one's actually full of food at the moment. I don't know why I've got so much food. I just got carried away, I suppose. I've got a lot of food in there, probably some clothing in there. I think there's some clothes. This one is my second sleeping bag, and clothing and a wash kit I think in there, and you know, I'll have baby wipes as well. That's just the all-purpose, you know, clean any part of your body with baby wipes. It's pretty critical for this kind of mission. So that's panniers. Moving forward, looking at the bags, this bag here, that contains a battery, which is currently in a non-waterproof hard case. It really needs to be in a waterproof case. And then there's 2 USB cables floating around in here somewhere. And these can be plugged into that battery, and then they come out the front of the bag. This is a Revel 8 Tangle. This it's like a half frame bag, right? A small frame bag. And then they come up here, the cables come up into this bag, which is something by Toe Peak. And then in here, what have I got? Like head torch and a camp light, so you can charge devices on the move with a system like that. You do the charging in here, you keep the battery somewhere else in the bike, wherever you've got room, and just bring your USB cables up to this one. That's how I like to do it. This another top tube bag. This has got lube in it, tie levers, another pair of gloves, fingerless gloves, and there's actually a tyre pressure gauge in there. I have 3 bottle cages. That's pretty important. I mean, people question, why do you need to have, what is that, like 2, maybe it's a little bit over 2 litres of water in these 3 bottles. And it's like, why do you need so much? Well, it's not just for drinking during the day, it's for cooking in the evening, and also you know, cleaning up the cooking pot. And I've got a knife and a spork, so they all need cleaning at the end of the meal. So that's how that works. Sometimes you have to get pretty creative fitting all your kit in. So this is I've got 2 M5 mounts here, but I need the bottle cage to be that much lower. So I made, just got an aluminium strip, drilled some holes in it, and I made the bottle cage, actually, instead of mounting there, it mounts there. Drop that whole cage to fit the bottle underneath the bag, obviously. Here, had to get a bit creative here. Obviously there's 2 M5 bolts in the frame, and you can get a splitter, which I think was made by something called M-Wave, and it kind of gives you, it allows you to put 2 cages on one mount. And again, I needed to pack it out with little spacers to get the bottles to fit. You see they don't fit in the cage quite properly. It's all kind of, you know, it's sort of there but not all there. But you know, it doesn't matter how fast I go, it doesn't matter how big a bump I hit, I've never lost a bottle out of this thing, and none of them are in properly, right? These ones aren't in sideways properly, and this one's not all the way down, but somehow they just stick in there, they stay in. So right, the other big bag, this is my small sleeping bag. They call it a lightweight sleeping bag. It's about the same as any other sleeping bag I've ever owned, but the way they make it lightweight, the way they make it fold up so small, is just by making it tighter to your body. Some people don't like a tight sleeping bag. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. So that little sleeping bag, 2 season, will fit in that other little sleeping bag, 2 season. And if we do the maths, effectively that's 4 season capability, right? I mean, I figure, I still haven't tested it. I'm going to get a cold night and go and test this setup out. And I'm thinking it's going to do 4 degrees comfortably. That's what I'm hoping. There's also a cooking pot in here, and I think it's about a 1.2 litre, 1.4, and it's steel, which sounds pretty excessive, but the reason I got it is because it's got the same diameter as that sleeping bag when it's packed up, so they both fit in the bag perfectly. You've really got to think about it when you're choosing your kit for bike packing. You've got to think, how is it going to fit on the bike? It's either got to be that kind of diameter, or it's got to be the right diameter to go in your fork bag. Most of the things we're carrying have got to be cylindrical. That's just how it is. So it's nice to have a big pot to cook in. And if I'm ever doing this and I'm not alone, well, there's enough space for 2 of us to cook. The other thing is, in that pan is the stove, and the stove is an MSR Whisperlite International, which is a pretty crazy stove for camping. But the reason I chose the MSR Whisperlite is because it has a remote fuel bottle with a line that connects them, like a fuel line, and that remote bottle fits perfectly in a cycle bottle cage. You'll see a lot of bike packers using them, and you've got the big red MSR fuel bottle. Just usually it's either, sometimes they put them underneath there, underneath the down tube, or you know, on the back of a seat stay, something like that. I've currently got it in the panniers because the place I usually mount it has been replaced by that big rack on the back. I've usually got it on a seat stay. The genius thing about this bag as well is because you've got these clips, you can roll the thing out and like change the length, change the width of the bag. So with the pan taking up that much room and the sleeping bag taking up that much room, if I move those 2 objects apart, I can actually store extra food in there, which I sometimes do if I've just hit a supermarket and I know I'm not going to want to shop for another day, maybe a whole day, so I can get extra food in there. So that big cylindrical front bag is attached to this cradle, and that is attached by these 2 big aluminium arms, which you can see either side of the stem. It's from a company called Salsa, which I believe is an American company. It might even be manufactured in America, I'm not sure on that. But the cradle is genius, and I fully recommend that. You can see what it does is it holds the load just by these 2 aluminium clamps onto your handlebar, so it's incredibly easy to install, and it holds it out far enough that it's in front of your brake hoses and in front of your gear cables, so there's no messing around. You can just fit it to your existing bike with your hoses and your cables right where they are, and it's got that amount of load out in front of it. I don't know what kind of weight it can take, but I've had it full of groceries So I'm talking fruit, tins of vegetables, right? So there's quite a lot of water content in that stuff, quite a lot of weight. And I've off-roaded like that and it's never moved a single millimeter. It's like the clamps are really well designed. The only thing I don't like about it is that the original straps were crap, and that's why I've replaced them with rock straps. And it's a little bit of a fiddle to load it properly if you've got lots of different lumpy items. So what I did is I've got like a sheet of plastic that is bendy, that just bends around in there, so it keeps the cylindrical shape nicely. It doesn't matter whether you've got a small load or a big load, that plastic sheet will kind of change size with the bag to hold the load properly. So it did need a bit of messing around, but you know, nothing's going to be standard on a setup like this because the people who make these things don't really know exactly how you're going to use them, do they? The tent, this is probably the best thing on here because again, I didn't have to move my hoses, I didn't have to move my cables. A tent just folds up in a nice cylindrical shape. It's never going to be wider than your handlebars, is it? And again, it's 2 rock straps. You might be able to see there how they loop around the handlebar, and then it goes through this. This is just a plastic cylinder that I made, right? Just cut it and sort of shaped it so it won't rub the straps and cut through the straps. With one set of straps, which cost 10 quid, and these plastic bits of plastic tube, which were basically free, and then a little bungee cord here, which the only job for that is to basically hook the loose ends. I've got my tent carried really securely under my bars for what, 10 quid, and the price of a bungee cord that was probably a quid maybe. So that's a really cheap, easy way of carrying your tent. It doesn't need a harness around it or anything like that. It's literally just 2 rock straps, one either side. This fork bag, what do they call this? That is a Salsa anything cage HD. It's the HD version. The metal bar version just looks rubbish to me, but the plastic version looks indestructible. This thing can extend up to about this high. I only ever keep food in there, and it's currently completely empty, but if I'm on a long tour and I stop in a supermarket, I'll be using extra space in the middle of that one and ramming that with rice and hummus and things like this. Here, this is a Blackburn cage. It's just a really simple, lightweight metal cage with 2 straps, and it's holding my self-inflating camping mat, which is it's 3/4 length, so from just above your shoulders to about halfway down your thighs, and it's 25mm thick, so it's really good for comfort actually, even if it doesn't sound like that's going to provide a lot. And the main thing it does, the main benefit, is the insulation that it gives from the cold ground. Now for attaching fork bags to your forks, what I use here, this is, if I can remember rightly, I think it's called a Dom Designs monkey clip or something. Again, I'll put links and pictures up so you can see what it actually is. But the genius of this thing is that it adds 3 M5 mounting bolts to any set of forks, which, if you know about proper bikepacking bikes, they always have rigid forks and they have 3 bosses built into them. With this monkey clip, or it might be a gorilla clip, you can basically cable tie the clip on. It's held by 4 cable ties, and then I think I had to find some shorter M5 bolts, or I had to pack it out or something, because obviously, you know, the bolts are so long and they're obviously going to stop against the fork leg, but that's held on with 3 M5 bolts, and then this strap is actually strapping the bag to the cage. And I'll show you a bit of video where I'm riding fairly well loaded up in the forest where I live, and I've actually got a 2-litre bottle of water on one of my cages, on one of my fork legs, and you can see this trail is not easy going. There's little drops and there's harsh corners and a lot of bumps, but this cage system, this clip system, it's like it's holding that stuff on there, and I've used it like this so many times. It's been on there for maybe, I'm going to say over a year, at least a year, and it's just rigid. I can see maybe that they've slipped a tiny little bit and they've sort of disturbed the decals. So if you're precious about your fork stickers, your decals, then maybe this isn't a good idea, but you know, it's more important to me to have the cargo capacity. And honestly, I've had a 2-litre bottle of water on that other side, and that's bouncing up and down, and the systems just work. They're just there, right? Everything, it's because I watch so many videos like this one I'm doing right here, and I just heard what worked for people, and I just researched everything, and I don't know, I've probably broken more bicycle components over the last few years than I've actually currently got working and in operation. So I kind of know a little bit what I'm talking about. I know what's tough, basically. It's important that that stuff works nicely, but it's also important that it's tough. The toolkit I didn't mention. I've got a pretty extensive toolkit in there, and there's another long zip on the other side, and that's got all the spares. This one is actually empty. There's nothing in there. Its only job is to hold that brake light, so I might ditch that and just put the brake light on there. Brake light, tail light. I've off-roaded the hell out of this bike with all this gear on it, and I'm pretty confident that it's going to survive whatever I can throw at it going through France. And of course, you don't need to spend money. My first bike I got for 70 quid on eBay when I was absolutely broke, and I fitted a rack and panniers on it. Again, the panniers were secondhand on eBay, and that whole setup probably cost me, I'm going to say, a little over £100, and that got me mobile. I was, you know, turning my back on motorcycling at that time because it was so expensive, and I live on these bikes now. All I need is a mountain bike with all these. I mean, you don't need all the racks and bags. You need the back rack and the panniers, and you've just got so much cargo capacity all on that one thing there. As long as you don't ride it too hard, your rack will stay solid. And that's it. That's basically the setup I'm taking to France.